Hello everyone, welcome to my vlog. It's Thursday morning, so of course it's a time for another vlog. So today's vlog I would like to dedicate it and talk a little bit about retouching. So yesterday actually I had a quite interesting conversation with one of my friends from Poland, and I'm sure he's watching this right now, so I just want to say hello to him because we have fantastic conversation, and we've been just chatting about photography, about some of those challenges we have. And I basically asked him, like, so what is the biggest challenge for you when it comes to photography? And he said to me, like, straightforward that, the biggest challenge and the biggest, issue he's kind of dealing with is retouching. So I had a chance to kind of like think a little bit about it and put some thoughts on the paper last night. I just want to dedicate this vlog to him because I just want to kind of give everyone also some little bit of different perspective and give everyone different angle on retouching. I've done similar vlog back in the days, but I just want to kind of like revamp this whole thing and just kind of give you more advice and more tips and kind of share with you guys my experience with retouching. So I just made 10 points which I think they're extremely important, and this is something which definitely helps you to look at retouching from completely different angle. So let me start with saying that number one thing is you have to understand that there's no way you can actually live and do professional photography without retouching. I know there's a lot of photographers out there who's trying to convince themselves and convince the world that they can become so good and they can create such a great images that they're not gonna need retouching. And I think that's, in my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but I think it's a false statement. And the world we live in nowadays, most of images are retouched. And the quicker you learn, the faster you actually just get this knowledge, it's gonna be better for you because, you're not only gonna get better images, but you also become better photographer. And I know it's frustrating, and I know it's something which takes a lot of time, but you have to somehow just put in your mind that retouching is really necessary to create stunning images. And I'm not saying that like you have to just jump on it and just dedicate it whole your life on retouching. I'm not saying that, but you have to understand at least the simple rules when it comes to the retouching. And even if you're outsourcing your images to someone to retouch your images, you still have to understand the process, because then that's going to help you communicate with the retoucher and creating the images you're looking for. But if you don't understand the process, then you're kind of stuck. And I remember back in the days when I started actually outsourcing my images, I felt kind of like crippled because I was giving my shots to someone and they were doing whatever they felt with them, and I had no control over this. I had no idea what they're doing. I didn't understand the process. I didn't understand what is gonna come out of it. I was just giving them the full freedom of doing stuff to my images, which sometimes the results were great, sometimes they were not so good. But as soon as I understand the process, it was much easier for me to understand what they're doing and where they can take this image. So that's something what is extremely important, and I want to kind of make everyone to understand that there's no way out of it. If you think that way, that you can't create images without retouching, then I deeply believe that you're just kind of trying to lie to yourself, and you're trying to, I don't know, just avoid this problem because you don't understand this whole thing. Okay, so number two. So number two is, and this is something very valuable and something which also you have to understand and actually process this, that you cannot really learn retouching overnight. This is a really long process, and it takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of frustration, takes a lot of dedicated hours into this. And even if you want to put this time, you're gonna put those hours, you still the process itself is very slow, and it takes a lot of time, and you have to not only have the knowledge, but you also have to train your eye. So if you started retouching recently and you don't see the result, please don't give up. Please keep pushing forward. Please keep retouch images, keep pushing everything what you know about it, and you will see the results. I remember back in the days when I started retouching, it was so frustrating. I'm not gonna tell you how many times I couldn't sleep overnight. I was just devastated. I was really, as I said, frustrated because I didn't see the results. And even I was watching workshops and I was watching, you know, tutorials. Everything looked kind of easy and simple when I was watching it, but as soon as I took basically this whole thing into my hands, I didn't see the results. I saw that, you know, I'm going nowhere, and there's nothing what I can do about it. So my tip is never give up. Just keep pushing, keep retouching. I got to the point where I was just retouching 2-3 images a day, and eventually, after like long period of time, I started seeing results. I was seeing that, you know, the images are getting better, the retouching is more precise. But again, this is a process. You have to be patient, and you have to really make sure that you dedicated a time and effort and everything what you can do to progress in this process. Okay, so number 3. So basically so here I want to actually stop for a second and just move a little bit back and say that retouching is basically more for enhancing your images instead fixing it. Because I remember back in the days, my philosophy, I was just shooting, and basically I was just like, you know what, whatever I'm gonna get, I don't care, I'll fix it in Photoshop. And this is the most deadliest approaches ever, because as I said, like, you have to get good image first before you actually start retouching the shot. Because, you know, when you start actually messing around and you start really kind of pushing stuff to those kind of areas where you don't really see the results, nothing good's gonna get out of this. And it's extremely important to kind of, you know, you have to start with good photography, and retouching is just kind of like the next step in making your images better. And I think that a lot of photographers forget about it, and they basically think that, you know, everything is fixable in Photoshop. Everything is, you know, I would say possible to do in post-processing. And of course it is, but, you know, it takes more time, and sometimes I think personally there's some images which you cannot really fix. You know, if their images are out of focus or the lighting is bad, doesn't matter what you do, and it doesn't matter how good you are in Photoshop. It's something that, you know, you cannot be really kind of resolved in Photoshop. And a lot of people, as I said, forget about it. And I even actually took some recently, some images to retouch, and I actually dropped them because, you know, the photographer basically told me, look, you know, I screw up here, I screw up there, and I want you to fix it. And I was like, you know what, like, this is not what retouching is all about. Sometimes it does, but, you know, there's also limits, and people have to understand. And that actually leads me to my next point, which is basically retouching also makes you a better photographer. And a lot of people also don't understand that and don't kind of think about it. Because when you start retouching your images, I found that I see a lot of things which I could improve in my photography. I see things which, you know, I'm not gonna make that mistakes again. Because you know, with post-processing, you kind of like take the image and just break apart, and you see what you've done well and what you actually done wrong. And this is something extremely important, because that's makes you grow not only like a retoucher, but also makes you grow as a photographer. And I also noticed in my career, whenever I started retouching my images, my photography got better. I could improve a lot of things which I didn't see before. So that's something which I highly recommend, because, you know, you will see the results right away. So as soon as you start retouching, as soon as you start learning how this process look like, that's gonna reflect your photography. There's no question about it. So make sure that, you know, if you're not retouch your images yet, just get on it right away. Okay, so my next point is, I just want to say that there's different ways of doing different things, and this also applies to retouching. So if there's some actually tests done recently by one of the best retouchers on planet Earth. I'm gonna actually link his name down below so you guys can see his work. And actually on his vlog, he did like a test where he actually put 3 or 4 different retouchers, and they retouched the same image. And believe it or not, all those three images look completely different. They're similar, you know, there's some things which, you know, they've done similarly, but overall, when you look at those images, you will notice that they look different. They're different. They have different mood. They have different color palette. There is some things which, you know, some of those retouchers fixed or, you know, adjust, where some others just left it. So what I want to see by that is that, you know, when you start retouching your images, you're also developing your style. You see things completely different. And that's why I highly recommend it to, you know, do retouching yourself, because, you know, you developing your style. You actually adding to the image kind of another layer of your, you know, kind of creativeness. You adding something which is, I would say, connected to your soul. You adding the mood you're going after. So that's something which is extremely important. And that's why, you know what, I'm saying that it's something what you have to somehow learn, because, you know, you explore photography on completely different level. Okay, so the next point what I want to make, and this is, I would say, one of the most important ones. So this is something where just literally you have to write it down and remember the rest of your life. The only way to learn retouching is to practice. And I think a lot of photographers, I don't know, they don't see that way. They think by, I don't know, watching tutorials, watching workshops, and then, you know, basically doing all those learning stuff, it's good enough. But you have to mix up, and you have to dedicate, and you have to practice. I remember, and I'm sure you guys also went through those experiences, those ones who already retouch images, that you can watch tutorial and everything, and I think I mentioned that like a few seconds ago. You can watch tutorial, you can see everything is easy, everything is kind of like, wow, it's simple. And then as soon as you start retouching, this whole thing kind of doesn't work that way. And the only way to learn retouching, as I said, is practicing, and practice and practice and practice till you can't even stand doing this. Then when you start kind of doing a progress. And I found, you know, whenever I've learned and whatever I actually, I don't know, kind of listen to some advice or some tips, I always try to apply that to my workflow and apply that to practicing. So if I see some technique, or I see some kind of like tricks or something which, you know, kind of helps me with my retouching, I'm always trying to practice this whole thing as much as I can, because this is the only way that you're gonna get better. I will get better, and then you will see the progress. Just watching stuff and reading things and just kind of like thinking that you know how to do some of those things, it's not gonna do anything. You have to practice, so just remember that. Okay, so the next thing, and this is also, in my opinion, extremely important point, that there's no magic tricks, there is no magic actions, there's no magic filters to make images look better. Most of those things is mainly manual work, and the more control you have on all aspects, the better the images gets. And I've been actually having also like a bunch of conversation with other photographers, and they saying like, oh, I did this action, or I you know, used those filters, and I've done this, and you know, the filter went for like some bunch of, I don't know, just modifiers, and you know, a lot of those crazy stuff. So the problem with that, what I found is that, you know, when you actually allowing computer takes over, usually there's two ways. One of it might work, or probably is not gonna work. So it depends, you know, like how the filter interacts with the image or whatever. But the way I like to kind of work and retouch images, I like to kind of break the down image and work step by step, but also just have a full control in this kind of individual, you know, factors which I have to adjust or fix, or, you know, just kind of like make changes to make the image looks better. And that, I found, is the best way to retouch images, to have a full control. And again, by using filters and using all this crazy stuff, you can, you know, what I'm saying also when it comes to actions, you know, they can speed up the process. But again, what I want to say is that it's extremely important to have full control on what you're doing. And a lot of photographers kind of going the path where they think like, oh, the computer or the program will take it over and, you know, do the things, you know, the proper way. And most of the time that's just not gonna happen. And I just want to kind of aware you guys of that, because, you know, this is the easiest way to kind of ruin your image. And I've seen a lot of those stuff, and, you know, people kind of like, well, it was just 2 minutes fix, or I apply these filters, and, you know, like, this is something what I do. Unfortunately, this is not the right way to do things, and I want to make sure that people understand there's no shortcuts. There's no something where you can actually just cut it off and you can actually just, you know, do it, you know, quick way. I found that retouching is one of those things where you really have to kind of like, you know, dig in, and you have to take your time to do this properly. So unfortunately, I found that there's no shortcuts. There's no something which you can do in 2 minutes. Retouching takes time, and you have to somehow digest that, you have to understand that, and you have to really kind of put your time into it. Okay, so the last couple of things which I want to mention here, and I hope I'm not going to dragging this too much. One of those things is, you know, you have to have a tablet to retouch your images. This is extremely important, and I remember I was fighting this for a long time, till finally I actually was, okay, enough is enough. I bought the tablet. And you also don't need the most expensive one, you don't need those high-end ones. The smaller the one, that works as well as the big one. And I also want to mention that, you know, the smaller ones actually, they're better, because, you know, like, you don't have to do as much movement, but you still have full control over what you're doing. But the point is, you have to have a tablet. I remember it took me at least a month till I actually got used to it, and you know, it was a painful process. But I can tell you from my perspective, and I'm sure most of retouchers, everyone who works in this industry tells you, that if you are retoucher and then you want to do retouch your images, you have to have a tablet. You become more precise, you become more accurate, and you can retouch your images faster. And there's no way in the world you can retouch images, you know, with your mouse the same way you retouch with you know, with your tablet and with your pen. So if you don't have one, I would suggest it to invest it. You know, they're not as expensive. You can get them fairly cheap. You can also get a used one. There's a lot of them out there. And, you know, start practicing and make sure that, you know, you working with the proper tools, which helps you to actually achieve way better results. So the last one, and this is something which I think is extremely important, and it's also something which you guys have to know, is that retouching can be fun. At the beginning, it's frustrating like anything else. Let's say you start running, you know, the beginning when you start running, you know, when you didn't run for a long time, or you didn't run ever before, it's tough. But then eventually, when you get used to it, when you actually, your body kind of like starts feeling it, then become fun. And the same comes with retouching. I found the beginnings were really tough for me, it was really hard, and I remember I was really struggling with this. But when I actually got kind of grip on it, and I actually started really feeling it, and I started like really enjoying it, there was a lot of fun. Until today, let me tell you, I love retouching. Nowadays, I have a lot of fun basically just sitting in my computer, putting music on, and started retouching the images. Now I know I understand the process a little bit better. I got a little bit more experience with it. It's much easier to me to, you know, deal with some of those challenges, but I love doing this. And I have to say that it was worth it for me to go through that struggle, go through that pain, go through that frustration, because now I really feel that I have full control over my images, and I can take them to where I want them to be. And that's so much excitement, and this is so much cool, and I love this with, you know, every cell of my body. Like, I absolutely love doing that. So finishing this video, I just want to show you one of my latest retouches, and I did like a screenshot where I videotaped this whole thing, and I'm actually gonna do like a fast video. So I'm gonna show you 1 hour of my retouching in like 3-minute show video. So enjoy it, and then if you guys have any questions, anything you guys would like to ask, please feel free to contact me. I'm always open to hear from you guys, you know, listening to your questions and giving you the most honest answers I can give you. So I'm not gonna drag this more. Enjoy this little video, and I will talk with you guys fairly soon. Bye bye.